Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to Witches the Moon. I am your Monday hostess, Natalie. Today, instead of seeing my mug, you get my fat thighs. This week we are talking about Cauldron Magick, and so I have my cauldron here, and I want to cover a couple of things. My cauldron's in need of cleaning. I want to cover a couple of things. First off, this is my cauldron. It is a good little size for personal use. I know some people have the really nice ones. Sunshine Morning Ray has got a really nice size one. It's very large and beautiful, and no, I'm not having cauldron envy or anything like that, but I did find that this size is a really good size for me. It's not too big, so I can carry it around if I need to, so I can easily transport it between my home and my office. It's also a good size for any kind of working that I want to do. So, what I wanted to talk a little bit about today, I know that this is a topic that we have covered in a past season, and so I'm trying to avoid going over what I went over during that video. I always try to bring something new to the topic when we cover a subject a second time. But what I do want to go over that I think is very important is care of your cauldron. So, for those of you that cook with cast iron, you're probably pretty familiar with this, and you can tune this portion out. But essentially, your cast iron must be cured prior to use and following every use after that. So, how do you take care of it? It's actually not that difficult. What you're going to do is you're going to go to the store and you're going to get yourself some Crisco grease. That's exactly what this is. This is solid Crisco bars. I buy it like this. And you're going to get a paper towel or even your finger, and you're going to get some of that on there, and essentially you're going to rub a light layer of it all over the cauldron like this, okay? And you want to make sure that you get it everywhere. Get it in the crooks here, just not too much of it like I did last time. Get the inside, especially the inside here, because cast iron will rust and it can be ruined if you do not care for it. So essentially you put a thin layer of the grease all over the cauldron, anywhere that there is cast iron, including the little feet. And then what I do is I put it on a cookie sheet and I place it upside down in a 400-degree oven for about an hour. That cures it. So then you just turn off the oven and you let it sit and cool, and then your cauldron is ready for use. Now you can wash it with soap and water, but again, it will rust, so you need to cure it once you do that. So if you get some ash or something in there, or something sticks, like candle wax or whatever, you can scoop it out, you can scrub it out, and then you'll need to re-cure your cauldron. So here in Texas, when it's 110 degrees outside, and you're dying from the heat, because the heat index is 112, 113, you know, you might consider just sticking it outside. Just kidding. Actually, I don't know if that would work or not. It's not a bad idea. But I would just do it in the oven. But you do need to do it after every use, especially if you put anything like water in there. You definitely need to. Now, uses or ways to conduct cauldron magic. There are a lot of things you can do with your cauldron. It's a very versatile tool. One, it makes an excellent censer. So if you wanted to burn loose incense in there, you can certainly do that. You take one of those charcoal tablets, put it in there, light it, and then just drop your incense on there, or anything like that. You know, if you I mix a little bit of essential oil with my incenses, so it burns very nicely for that. So you can walk around and cleanse your sacred space. Now, I have a smaller itty bitty little baby cauldron. For those of you that will remember, it's like a little round fat pot. And I actually use that one almost exclusively now as an incense censer. But I keep that one at my office and I keep this one at my home. I'll probably actually switch them. Keep this one at my office, keep the other one at home for the ability to be able to use Cauldron Magick. So I use a lot of fire in my magic, and so my cauldron comes into play a lot in that. Another thing that you can use it for is if you have materials that need to be burnt, that you can burn them in the cauldron, because it is a cast iron pot. It's meant to hold things that are hot or to be put over fire or into fire. So you can burn things in your cauldron, but again, you'll want to clean it out really good and cure it again once you do that. But I like to burn things. So like if I'm doing money magic and I'm burning, something, I'll put it in here and I'll let it burn down into an ash. Sometimes I'll do that in my pestle, but I use my pestles mostly for herbs because I've only got one big one. for baneful herbs and one small one for baneful herbs and one larger one for like herbs when I'm blending my teas. And so usually if I'm going to burn something, I burn it in the cauldron. So I'll just let it on fire and let it sit in there and let the ash settle, and then I'll scoop the ash out or turn it over and get the ash out. And that works really, really well. Another thing that you can use a cauldron for is for scrying. It's a dark surface. So you can put water in here and use it for water scrying. And I find that to be very effective. I don't do that a lot with my cauldron because I tend to keep my cauldron more for fire. But remember that the cauldron is a feminine symbol of the womb. So all of your magic comes out of that and it's birthed into being. So I use my cauldron extensively for a lot of my magic, especially if I'm doing any kind of renewal or transformative magic where I'm wanting to birth a new change. So sometimes I will take like the death card or the tower card. I'll copy it because I don't like to actually burn the cards, but I will use an image of that card and I will burn it in here to indicate that that change is transforming, it's completed, and then I will use that as part of my spell remnants. Or I will put it on a candle used as a candle dressing and then burn that. I will burn candles in my cauldron, so I'll put candles in here. I'm about to do a money magic spell, so I will be putting the candles in here because I want to birth the prosperity out of the spell. So I will burn the candles in here and use it that way as well. And so then I will take out the remnants and I'll bury them on the property. So those are just some things that you can do. You can kind of warm up the bottom of the candle and stick it in the cauldron. When I do ritual for a Sabbat, I will often burn my candles in my cauldron. I'll have my cauldron in the middle, and I'll have the 3 candles representing the Maiden Mother Crone or the Inseminator Father and Sage God, whatever I'm doing. Sometimes I use it primarily for the goddess. It's very rare that I'll actually use this as a god for the god candles, but sometimes I will if I'm calling on Cernunnos for a particular reason. Then I may do this as a symbol of the two of them coming together, being birthed from the womb of the woman, the power of the god. So it's kind of, to me, it's all cyclical and kind of tied in. So, but that is basically how you would use your cauldron for certain types of magic. You can use it for, like I said, scrying, candle magic, fire magic of any kind, burning anything in it. Remember that it can be a vessel for water because, again, it represents the womb, so we are all birthed from the waters of life. So it can be symbolic in its nature in terms of everything we do is symbolic because symbols have power, right? So in any case, I use it primarily for transformative magic, which is why I use a lot of fire, because I'm transforming. Fire is very transformative. It takes something solid, turns it into ash, which then becomes fertile in the earth, because ash is very fertile. It's good to mix a little ash with your fertilizer, and things are reborn from that. So I really, really find this a powerful symbol, and I love this. This is one of my favorite tools. I just love it. So get on out there and explore for yourself. Use it any way that you find that it suits you. Whatever calls to you. There's no wrong way to do cauldron magic. So I know a lot of people that don't use a cauldron at all. And it doesn't have to be this type of a cauldron either. It doesn't have to be cast iron. You can use a copper pot. I've seen people use copper pots. I just don't know much about the care of copper. And so I'm much more familiar with cast iron because here in Texas we make our cornbread in a cast iron griddle. So I use a lot of cast iron in the cooking. I love it because you can put it directly into the fireplace and there you go, and it heats it up. So if you wanted to do that too, you can certainly do that. It's not going to hurt it to have it directly in fire. You can burn fire underneath it because you use it camping, so you can hang it on something and have a fire underneath it. Works just as well. But I actually had a friend who had the little arm that you put in your fireplace to hang a cast iron pot in. It was kind of cool. I was a little jealous. I have a cast iron, like for your clothing. You would, put it on the coals and then you would, use a cloth and iron your clothes with it. It was my mother-in-law's. So, and I have a cast iron tea kettle that was also my mother-in-law's. But cast iron's a pretty sturdy metal. You just have to make sure that you cure it well, because if you don't, it will rust and then it will be ruined. So, make sure that you take care of it and enjoy your time with it. Thank you so much for watching, and have a wonderful day. Blessed be.